pat yourself on the back because you are right here, right now, for a reason. Welcome to the On Purpose podcast, where together we will empower ourselves and others to live lives with more passion and purpose. How you doing this morning, Jared?
Freezing cold, Ali.
Freezing cold still?
Yeah, that's why I gotta have the hoodie on today.
Even with
man.
that rock hoodie you got on?
I feel bigger wearing this. I feel like just wearing rock stuff makes me bigger.
There you go. It probably does, man.
Dude, yeah, it's so cold. It's like 20 degrees out. Everything's frozen. But here's the reality. The only benefit I see to everything being frozen is it's easier to clean up after my dog in the backyard.
There you go.
It's way less messy.
And it's Goggins style, man. You got to stay hard. Got to embrace that cold.
I don't know, man. I'm getting soft. Dude. I need warm all the time.
Well, that rock hoodie looks like it's doing the job, man. You know, I used to love The Rock so much when I was a little kid. I used to cry when Stone Cold Steve Austin would beat him. I would get so mad.
Dude, I could see you loving The Rock.
I used to love The Rock. Do the people's eyebrow.
It won't be that long till The Rock's on here. You realize that?
Yeah, I would love that.
Oh, we're going to do that.
I'd love to get The Rock on
All
here.
right, community, hold us responsible for that. We got to get him on here at some point in the future.
Yeah.
So, besides being cold, I'm good, man. You?
Fantastic, man. You gave me the good news that we got an opponent.
Yeah.
So ready to get this goal checked off the bucket list of competing in my first MMA fight next month, January 25th.
Yeah.
So super pumped.
It'll be fun. You got a couple teammates on there with you, and it's always, at least I found that it was a lot more fun to share that journey with people you're close to.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so I'm excited, and that's definitely front of mind.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. It's a crazy moment, that's for sure. So we'll have some fun getting you ready for that, and then we'll turn you loose.
Yeah, I'm ready. It's been nice to be back. Got to reflect a little bit last week on our last week's episode of Still Hiding in the Closet, and it was a really good reflection for me. What are some things that you reflected on with that purposeful practice?
You know, it was interesting. I actually had a conversation with somebody that told me they didn't like that episode.
Really?
Yeah, and I was like, well, what was different about it? And they're like, it was too true for me. And I was, okay. And they're like, yeah, there's just so many things I don't fully commit to in my life. Mm-hmm. And so, it may resonate with people that, selling yourself short or dimming your own light, man, is no way to go through life. So for me, hiding in the closet, I felt like last week was a big breakthrough for me, getting the book finished and a couple other things, big leadership presentation done. So I feel like maybe for the first time in my life, I'm truly 100% in on most things.
Nice.
Yeah. And that's probably, quite honestly, that's the first time I could ever say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You?
Yeah, no, it was an eye-opener for me, man. It was an eye-opener for me in realizing that things I'm intentionally holding back from and being my best self is always making excuses for little things that take away from my highest self. I'm proud to announce that I officially quit cigarettes. It's been about a month now, but I had this 6-month span where I was smoking cigs, and it was just like this little thing to where I had overcome dipping tobacco, being from Texas on the wrestling team.
Yeah.
I had dipped for years.
Yeah. And
I quit dipping. It's been 3 years for that, but for whatever reason, I picked up cigs about 7 months ago and finally quit. It's been about a month now. And I'm solid on that, feeling solid on that. But just little things here and there to intentionally hold me back from it. And I realized that a big part of it was also how I envisioned what work had to be. In the corporate world, this 9 to 5, sitting behind a desk in a chair on a computer for 8 hours and grinding it out. And I adopted that in my own business I need to make sure that I'm putting in these hours. And recently, especially getting off Adderall, my ADHD medicine, which that has been a battle for me over the past 4 years, kind of on off, more on. But this last time that I was taking it just about every single day, 5 days a week during the work day. And I would have it cycled into other things, where I felt I needed to get it out of my system. So I'd sweat it out in the evening and then smoke weed to go to bed. So I had this whole like day of like substance
Yeah.
use. And um, did like taking a break from all of that, I realized that, and you had actually said something of like, oh, well, try structuring your day differently.
Yeah.
I felt like there's no way I can just sit here for 8 hours without using the Adderall.
Right.
Right. And now I'm seeing like, okay, I'll do an hour here of emails and I'll do an hour of calls and maybe I'll go set up some meetings, some workshop visits. Then maybe I'll go to a new Toastmasters club, which I did yesterday during the day. I'm still honing my
Yeah.
skills, but it's not specifically work, like
Sure.
being able to work, right? But still honing my skills in different ways. So I've realized that I had kind of been hiding some things in the closet because I felt that I had to work a specific way um, to be successful,
Yeah.
and I'm kind of seeing that that's not the case.
But I think that's true for a lot of people. Like that whole the whole grind mindset. The term grind was never even around until probably the last 4 or 5 years, and then it really blew up. Everybody's on the grind, grinding this, grinding that, and for a lot of people, what you're actually doing is grinding yourself down.
Hmm.
You're running yourself too hard, too long, with not enough rest, not enough recovery, um, and it's easy to get sucked into that mindset because for many of us, it's what was modeled.
Hmm.
It's what we saw our parents do. It's what we see people doing on television, right? You work super hard, put in all these hours, you'll get ahead. When the reality is, the best benefit to owning your own business is you don't have to sit here all day. You can work, 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours in the evening. You work, what I mean? You have the flexibility. So I think just allowing yourself to chase it how it's supposed to be for you.
Right.
And remember, this dream of yours is not my dream. It's nobody else's dream. And how I would do it is maybe not how you would do it.
Hmm.
So that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been quite the journey for me with kind of incorporating substances into my life, thinking that I need them to perform at my best, right? And now, kind of just completely just purifying myself, I'm realizing that it doesn't need to be the grind that I thought of. Like, for example, after my trip to Egypt, really got to disconnect. The whole bouncer incident was a blessing in disguise. The fact that I had to be on pretrial services, I couldn't drink or smoke weed for 2 months. Honestly, Jared, probably been like 8 years since I've gone 2 full months without smoking at all.
Sure.
Cannabis has been a big part of my life for a long time. So having that complete reset and recharge, coming back to it this past weekend, it was totally different. It was totally different, and I realized just how much less clear I was, less present, less alert, and I was feeling a lot more of some of the negative effects that come with it: anxiety, a little bit of paranoia, some munchies, which can be good or bad depending on how you're using it. But I also think it was it was also because I wasn't extremely intentional with how I was using it. And now, I was smoking weed just about every day. It was a
Yeah.
nightly thing. Get home after it was my nightly ritual. And now I'm just like, how was I doing that?
Yeah.
And a lot of questions arise too because I'm deep in the industry. I'm deep in the industry, participate. I go to trade shows. I go to consumption. So this is going to be
Yeah, it's your business.
It's my business.
Yeah.
I make products to consume cannabis. So it's going to be a whole new chapter for me, realizing that it's no longer a part of my daily ritual.
So let's talk about that for a second. I think that's an interesting. Honestly, I'm proud of you for going through your journey, and a lot of people, well, they may not have the specific bouncer incident in their life. They're going to have a similar incident, what I'd call like a pivot moment, right? Like
Hmm.
something happens, and now I have to make a decision. Which way do I go? And you could have gone bitter, negative, everything was everybody else's fault, or you kind of went your way where you're like, okay, like what is my role in this? Okay, how does this happen? And you grow from it, right?
Hmm.
You're taking it as an opportunity to grow. So when you so sometimes you're going to need external forces to kind of make you change, which is what you had, right? You had the
Yeah.
court saying you can't do this for a period of time.
And I was pissed.
Yeah.
I hated that.
So
I did
talk
not
to me
like that.
about that emotional journey, because the first day this happened, you weren't having the same conversation with me.
No, no, I was angry, and to this day, I still do believe that it was an injustice that we shouldn't have had those charges, but I'm grateful that we did because, yeah, I was angry, but after I let those choices or the effects kind of play their course and really got to reflect on it. I had made the mistake that got me on pretrial services by not showing up to the second court date. Right? They set like 3 court dates before anything even got done. So I was a little frustrated and was like, man, why am I even getting this? This isn't
Yeah.
my fault. And eventually, once I just had to accept that, okay, I'm going to be subject to random P tests at any time until they decide when we're going to schedule this court date. And I just had to accept it. Just had to accept it. These are the facts, and that was it. There was really no going around that. So in that journey, I stopped. Couldn't drink alcohol. Couldn't smoke cannabis. Um, couldn't do anything that would show up on a P test, but cannabis and alcohol for sure, especially cannabis, more of a daily ritual. But in alcohol, every now and then on the weekends I like to drink as well. So really having to clean and purify, and then also being off the Adderall too, really made me change where I was putting my time and my energy.
Yep. But now, so it's interesting that all this times together, right? Especially in your life, and we've talked about this on other episodes. You had met Courtney,
Hmm.
who was starting to enlighten you into some different things,
Yeah.
right? And then this happens and basically forces you to change behavior for a short period of time.
Hmm.
Just a short period of time, because it was what, maybe 2 months, a
two
month,
months yeah.
2 months. Over the course of your lifetime, 2 months is a very brief window.
Super brief.
However, you had already had changes kind of happening around you that maybe you weren't even aware of,
Yeah.
because you were allowing different people to start influencing you, right? You were expanding your circle that we've talked about 1,000 times. You were open to learning from other people. You weren't just stuck, and this is how I've always done it. This is how I'm going to do it. I'll get through these 2 months. I'm going right back to where I was. And I think that's kind of where a lot of people struggle.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes an external force will bring you some discipline that maybe you didn't know you needed.
Right.
It will bring you some structure that maybe you needed, but you weren't sure how to create.
No doubt, Jared.
And that facilitates growth, right? Like we've talked about this over and over. When you got hit with that, you cannot live your lifestyle for 2 months by some judge up there that really probably, let's be honest, looked at your paper for about 20 seconds, doesn't know anything about you, quite honestly doesn't care.
Hmm.
They're getting through their docket, and he has so much power over you to tell you you can't live your life for 2 months.
That pisses me off.
But it's also like, okay, what do I have to do to never let this happen again?
Right.
Does that make sense? And,
No
and I
doubt.
think too
Yeah.
many times the world and the universe will kind of give us these moments where we can pivot and really evaluate who we are and where we're headed. But for many of us, we're not open to learn.
Yeah.
We are so rigid, and we're like, no, I'm doing it this way. When the reality is maybe the way we're doing it isn't best for us. Or maybe it's not best for us now. Maybe it was in the past.
Yeah. I think that's exactly what happened because I had that mentality actually of like, all right, I'm just gonna get through this 2 months and go back to exactly what I was doing, and again, I am an advocate of cannabis. I think it's an amazing medicine, and for some people, maybe it is a daily ritual for anxiety and for you to live your best life. But I think for me, it came to a point to where I was using it as a form of escapism, of just like getting away from the day. And we've said this before. I've said this before that if you don't add adversity and hardship in your life, the universe is going to bring it to you. And I think, like you're saying, I was already creating circles, trying to get to this next level, but holding on to these certain things that the universe was like, if you're not going to let it go, we're gonna find something to let it go for you, right? And even when I was in this 2 months, I was kind of thinking like, oh, it's gonna be great when I can smoke again
Yeah.
and do all this, and I come back to it, and it's not even like I'm choosing to be stoic and like, no, you know what, I'm taking out the weed. I smoked it. It wasn't the same.
Yeah.
It's just not the same experience that I had before, to where I don't know what it was. Something rearranged in my brain. Something happened to where I'm coming back to it, and it just doesn't have the good effects that it did. But you know what does? So I want to give an example of my day yesterday. Like before Egypt and after Egypt, I completely redid my whole morning routine and ritual. So yeah, I did grind yesterday for about 15 hours, but here's what it looked like. I woke up at 5 a.m. Right, I did a little 10-minute meditation, did my morning poop and read in the bathroom, did my gratitude journaling, regular journaling, went and got some swimming in, then went to work, right? Worked a couple hours. Then Jenna and I went to Toastmasters, breaking up the workday a little bit, came back, worked a little more, went to team.
Yep.
After team, I'm telling you, my big goal for 2020 is learn piano. Hit a piano lesson. After the piano lesson, went to some improv class, came home, kind of structured for the day. It was 8 o'clock, had dinner, all that. So that's how I have to work now, because I'm not medicating myself to be in front of a screen for 8 hours. I know my ADHD, like, and I think you kind of have it too, to where, like, we're fighters. Like, we always like to be moving,
Yeah.
doing different things. It's so hard for me when I don't take the ADHD medicine to sit in front of a computer even for 2 hours straight.
Yeah.
Is tough. So I have to have these different things, but it's still productive. It's still getting it done. And I feel so much better not medicating myself to do something that I used to think was okay, like this is the way, this is what's
But
going to
see,
be
even
most
that,
productive.
like, who says that is the way? Who says that's the way? Who says you have to sit and stare at a computer
The
for 8
corporate
hours?
world.
The world tells us that.
Yeah.
Nobody that cares about Ali tells you that. Nobody that knows you as a person. And it's interesting. I don't know if I was born, many years later, if I'd have had ADHD as a kid or not. What I was,
For sure you would
I
have.
was called being a boy,
Yeah.
right? And my brother we were boys. We were busy. We were dirty. We were into stuff. We broke things. We fought, we just did boy stuff. And there was nothing wrong with that, but like we've pivoted somewhere where, yeah, like we expect you to sit and be quiet and polite, and dude, that's not what boys are supposed to do. Um, that's a whole nother topic, but yeah, I don't think. I guess spinning back to your story, here's what I really like about it is you got to this moment, you were forced to change, and you kind of embraced putting new things in your life instead of just sitting there in defiance and be like, okay, I'm gonna ride out 2 months and I'm going right back to what I'm doing, because you saw where it got you. Like it created a ceiling, right? Our habits create our ceilings. That what I do every day, there's only so far I can go with it unless I start adding new ways to do things, new people to influence me, new ideas to create a new curve. And too many people, especially people like my age, we've had some success, right? You got a house, you got a car, you got a career, whatever, and we kind of like, okay, this is the ceiling for me, and we don't ever expand beyond what we've already been doing for many, many years. And sometimes it does take an external force to make you expand. Sometimes it's a new relationship, it's new people in your life. But you can't get to a new level doing what you've already done. Like you're at the level that provides.
For sure. And I don't think those external forces are going to work unless you really want it to.
For
either.
sure.
If you're happy where you're at and you're just going to, and you're complacent with that, then no external force is going to happen. But I think why this all happened for me is because I really wanted to get to that next level. I really wanted to be more proficient, more productive, influence more people in a positive way, to where those external things, and I still think about it, like it's crazy how it all went down.
Yeah.
It's like the odds that happened and we got charged with those charges, and how everything happened. It's crazy how it went down. But now in retrospect, I'm like, whoa.
Well,
the
let's
universe
even
has
go
my back.
further. Let's just be honest though. How many nights could something like that have happened in, say, the last 4 years for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Drinking, bar scene, uh, interact with bouncers. That
Mm-hmm.
could have happened many, many nights.
Mm-hmm.
But why did it happen 6 months into the On Purpose podcast? Why did it happen 6 months into having a community that you've helped build that holds each other accountable and strives for more and is always looking for the next great way to self improve?
Mm-hmm.
Right? How did it happen after we knew each other? To where the policeman actually knew you because of us,
Yeah.
right? I mean, if you start to think about it, very few things, at least the way I believe, very few things in life are just purely chance.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a pattern there, and there's a reason they happen the way they happen.
Oh yeah, no
I mean,
doubt.
you didn't know Courtney when all that started. All of a sudden, she pops into your life about halfway through the process,
Yeah.
and you, right? I mean, if you look at how the world aligns things, sometimes here's just what I think. Sometimes the best way to get through life is to quit trying to control every variable. Quit trying to, you know, like for your example, take a medicine that allows you to stare at a computer for 8 hours, and then take a different medicine that allows you to sleep, and then take another one. You know what I mean? Because there's so many
Right.
people that get caught up in that because they're trying to control every variable. For me, I have found like this last year has probably been one of the best years of my life, and it's really boiled down to this. I know where I want to get in life. I know what I want to provide for my family. I know the experiences I want to have, but I've given up control of how I get there.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know the best path. I know that I need to work hard and take steps every day, but if I'm only focused on going from here to there in that straight line, and all these life is over here to the right, but I'm so oblivious, I don't ever take a little turn to interact with you, what have I missed out on?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think for many of us, we have this path laid out, and we're so rigid that we know how to get there. We miss the obvious signs that the universe is telling us, hey, buddy, you can get there, but you can get there on the highway, or you can take this 2-lane road through the mountains to see, you know what I mean? You can
Wow.
take the scenic route.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, and it's easy to get caught up in that. I mean, that was the number one negative thing that I didn't like about taking Adderall was that it made me so rigid and so narrow-minded to where I would see a conversation as a task to complete,
Yeah,
so I could complete more tasks. Like
right.
I wouldn't be present. I wouldn't truly engage like my soul and heart truly enjoys to do with people. You know, I
Which
would
is actually who you are.
right.
Like, let's be honest, B Nails will be ultra successful when you're authentically communicating with people.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? There's so many other businesses where I can be treated like a number and a process and run through the system, but that's not intricately who you are.
Yeah. And I appreciate you and this community so much because I think really what one of the biggest things that's helped me get here is talking about it.
For sure.
You know, in previous episodes, sharing a little bit here and there of like, I'm kind of struggling with this. This is something that I want to improve on and doing these purposeful practices. And like you said, it's no coincidence that all this has happened months into the podcast. And like we always say, like we're going through this journey together.
Absolutely.
I'm not sitting up here preaching stuff saying that I have it all figured out. I'm doing the work as we're going, just like our community is, and it's amazing to be able to see when we make this progress and hit these milestones of like, wow, like this has been a work in progress here in the making for a little while.
Yeah, and it has, and I think the community is a key because it's telling you being part of the community is a shift, right? Like if you were having these same discussions with people that had known Ali as just a party animal or the fun, joking guy, would they have supported this change? Would they have been like, hey, dude, in 2 months, man, I got this set up for you. We're going to go here and there. Would they have embraced the growth? Would they have put you in a position where you're actually even questioning, do I go back to this, or is this now a time to move forward, or a
Right.
time to go a different direction? So that community piece is huge. And for those of you
Huge.
listening in, if you are at a pivot point in your life, if you're at a stage where maybe some adversities hit you that you didn't see coming, that you weren't in control of, but now it's here, your community is going to play a huge role in how you handle that.
Yeah, definitely. And for me it was just sharing, right? Because it was something in my opinion, subtle enough to where, I have this prescription. It's not like I'm taking,
Yeah.
drugs out the street. I'm in Colorado. I'm smoking medical cannabis. Everything I'm doing is legal, right? To where I never had people really telling me like, bro, you got to stop that. With the cigarettes, yeah.
Yeah.
But or like, bro, you got to stop that. Like people understood, and it's not like I was sharing, hey, I take Adderall and smoke
Yeah.
weed, all
Yeah.
the time. But it's kind of like I knew deep down that eventually I would need to let those go
Yeah.
to get to that next level. Cannabis, at least daily use, right? And it after sharing, after talking about it, after being able to come on here and interact with you, interact with the community, it helps shine the light on that more. And then the universe brought me this opportunity to completely disconnect. And then when I come back, it's like I don't. It's not even something that I want to do because the effects aren't the same for me.
Yeah. That's called growth,
I guess so.
right? Like, I mean, think about, like, just put it in, put it to scale, right? Scale is a big term nowadays. You were focused on, getting high, getting through 2 months. You could go back to drinking or smoking whenever you want. Your freedom.
Hmm.
And part of that process, you literally go with somebody who you had fairly recently met, who was kind of challenging your thinking a little bit and saying, hey, wait a second, what have you tried? You know what I mean? Like, she's, without dumping it on, she's kind of influencing you to, maybe I should be looking at things different.
Right.
Then you travel to literally the birthplace of humanity.
Yeah.
And you're sitting on for those of you that didn't follow the story, you need to start following Ali more. You're sitting on a patio having breakfast with some of the wonders of the world, the pyramids right there.
Yeah. Ancient.
Right, like literally your problems, when you think of how did they build those? What kind of suffering did they go? What kind of adversity did they face? And you're there face to face with it, with your own adversities. I think that's just a great opportunity to reflect on. Man, I'm pretty lucky. Like,
Yeah.
like I'm lucky that this is my adversity versus what these guys faced. And it allows you to put things into perspective. And the fact you shared it with somebody that you care about and that supports what you're doing makes it even more beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. It was an amazing trip and just an amazing contrast, like you said, to see what people were doing back then. They didn't have everything that we have. I mean, it's amazing to think, even today, that would be an amazing feat. The pyramids, the pharaoh tombs, all the hieroglyphics, the carvings, the sculptures, the paintings, everything that they did. It's an amazing contrast to be like, wow, like what am I doing? Ty Lopez, this guy, he got famous off of a TED talk he gave, read a book a day. He doesn't actually read a full book a day. He has like a method of how he like goes through a book, and he talks about how uh, it's great to do contrast to your problems and contrast something with huge of like, ask yourself, is it harder than putting a man on the moon? What are some really hard problems that humanity has solved, and then contrast that with your problem. Jeff Bezos said we can always innovate out of
Yeah.
any problem, to where if we think about it long enough we can get there. So that, I think that was part of it for me, is like going over there, seeing that, and being able to innovate and really like just disconnecting from the daily monotonous grind, because it's easy just to get caught up in that same routine. I mean, we're creatures of habit.
Yeah.
We do what feels comfortable, what we've been consistently doing, and it's hard to be disciplined enough to be like, you know what, I need to stop, to disconnect from this habit for a little while, and then come back and reevaluate things.
And that's the key, though, reevaluate. You just don't blindly jump back in and go, okay, I'm going to do exactly what I was doing because it's what I've been doing. You come back and go, okay, is this where I want to be? Is this for me? Do I need to scale it back? Do I eliminate it altogether? And that's the process of it gaining experience.
Yeah. Do you have an example of something that you recently disconnected from, that was like a daily or weekly ritual for you, whether it was positive or negative, and reevaluating it, making change?
Um, I've been trying to disconnect. I don't know if it's whole daily, but yeah, on Sundays I try to disconnect from social media. I try not to do a ton of technology. So for the past month, I don't check emails on Sunday. I try not to even open my computer, just because Andrea and I have an Airstream project we're working on, and that's kind of my day with her to give. So that's kind of probably the biggest for me. Is it's easy to, and it's crazy, right? We've been married what 20 something years now, and we're together all the time, so it's easy to be like, oh, see, let me just jump on, I'll spend an hour here. But that's taking away her quality time, and Sunday's one of the few days we have undivided attention. So for me, I've really been focused on disconnecting from just all my technology, um, to make sure she feels valued. And I think that's something that we can kind of all struggle with in today's world, is valuing kind of what you were saying, the productivity and the grind over the conversation and relationship that's being built.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I actually chose not to attend a huge conference, MJ Biz, that's going on this week, because my aunt, my mother's sister, they've just had their disagreements and issues for years,
Yeah.
and it's the first time that she's coming up with my little cousin and my uncle. He's a freshman in high school now. He used to come to my wrestling matches in high school as a little 3-year-old. Go Ali, go! He's this half Japanese, half Mexican little boy. I call him Yachi. But they're coming up, and I evaluated the the benefits of each decision. It's the first
Yeah.
time in a long time, to be completely honest with you, that I chose family
Yeah.
over business.
Right.
And I think it's part of just this growth of me being like, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm dedicated. I'm always on the grind, right? But for this specific opportunity, I was like, I haven't gotten to interact with with this side of my family about 5-6 years. So it was more valuable to me than going to this massive conference, right?
Yeah.
It would be a lot of business connections.
That's good. I'm excited to hear how it goes.
Yeah,
You'll enjoy it.
yeah.
And
I'm super
there's
excited.
there's always time to make more money and time to make more business. But your family time, it goes quick,
It does.
and we're not always guaranteed tomorrow, so you got to take advantage of it. And I think it's interesting owning a couple businesses. You own several businesses. When you first get into it, what you're really challenged with is that entrepreneur grind. You got to put in all these extra hours and stuff, and you do, because it's literally your business. It lives and breathes and dies with your effort.
Hmm.
But one of the big reasons I got into it as well is I don't want to miss things. So if I don't work a period of a day so I can go watch Trey wrestle, I can make that up in the evening. I can make
Right.
that up I'm in charge of that.
Exactly.
I think too many of us are in positions where we're not really in control of our life. We're not in charge of how we spend our time. And to me, the most recent changes I've made over this year is just to do that, to allow myself to have time freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. It needs to be cohesive to where you can encompass everything in your life
Yeah.
and each day. Some family time, work, play, leisure, productive leisure. Yeah, no, I love it. So to kind of wrap things up, what do you think about like disconnecting from habits that you do? What do you feel when you're disconnecting from daily or weekly habits, and then how do you fill your time when you do?
I think that's important. If I like, so say the Sunday no technology, social media stuff that I'm working on is, I don't just go in and say, okay, I'm disconnecting from this. And I hear this all the time, right? Like, oh, I don't get on social media. It's a bunch of negativity, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not even getting on it for a week.
Hmm.
And then you ask them, like, well, what do you do with that time? Well, I watch TV or I watch the news. I'm like, okay, so you change one negative outlet for another. Like, there's nothing growing there. So for me, if I'm going to purposely restrict something, like say I'm gonna cut out coffee. Okay, I'm drinking too much coffee. I'm gonna cut it out. Well, I'm not just gonna cut it out to nothing. Like I'm gonna fill that time. Maybe I'm gonna switch to some tea because there's maybe some additional benefits, or I'm cutting out technology on Sunday, but I'm not cutting it out to sit and watch TV. I'm gonna cut it out to spend more time with Andrea and to spend better time with her. So I think that's important. Is if you're going to restrict something, cut something out, like have a plan. Okay, what am I gonna replace it with that could potentially help me grow?
100%. That's huge. You need to find an alternative. Like for me, when I had quit dipping and quit cigarettes, dude, it's gum.
Yeah,
Whenever I get that craving,
yeah,
gum in my mouth. And then Tony Robbins says that too. It's like you must have an alternative to the habit. If it was junk food, where whenever you have that same thing, sometimes gum or sometimes just going to get a quick little workout in,
right.
do some stretching, whatever it is, but having an alternative for whatever the negative habit you're trying to change.
Yeah, and that's a huge, right, because think about it, it's a habit. Why? Because you've done it repeatedly, which means it takes up time from your day. Now, it could be small, it could be major. So if you don't have a plan to fill that void of time, it's easy to, one, fall right back to where you were, and two, not to grow. Like what are you going to do with that time? It's literally like blocking your time out and filling it with something beneficial. Think about it, most people aren't disconnecting or restricting something that they know is inherently good for them. It's something they're like, hey, this is probably out of control. I'm drinking too much coffee. I'm smoking. Whatever it
Yeah,
is.
that's
So
true.
have a plan to replace it with something that's better.
Yeah, well, sometimes people do though, like at the gym. We see people train, and then MIA,
Yeah.
even though it is inherently good for them. But I think you're right in the sense that most of the time we're always trying to disconnect from something that we know
Well,
doesn't
it's
serve
it's
us.
funny. I was just thinking about this listening to you talk today. Is you like external discipline, right? Now, maybe not in the form of a judge,
Yeah.
but even like your biggest point of suffering this year is when? When do you feel like you suffer the most?
This year?
Yeah, Ramadan,
Oh, yeah,
right? Which is an external force. It's your religion telling you you cannot eat from sunrise till sunset. Not by your choice. Like your habits don't do that. That's literally an external force saying, hey, here's a rule for you.
yeah. Right.
And you care so much about it, you want to challenge it that you do it. You know, I mean, I was just thinking about that. Like, it's interesting. Some people are intrinsically disciplined, like the discipline that they need comes from within. Others are external, and it varies from point to point in your life. But just this year, like your two big growth windows were both external parameters put on you.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes we need that.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we need
Because we
that.
don't always know what's best for us. And that's the crazy thing, right? We get in this habit of, oh, I know what's best for me and I've done this. Well, you've done that. Doesn't mean there's not a better way.
Yeah.
And I truly believe if we're not open to learning from those that are around us, sometimes the universe will force us to see things differently.
100%. No, it's funny. I was sharing with you earlier how I didn't want to tell Jared you that cannabis wasn't the same for me. I kind of had like this ego pride thing of like, nah, I'm a cannabis advocate. Like I'm a daily user, like cannabis all the way. And then I was like, man, I smoked quite a few times this weekend of like trying to figure it out. I had two different strains and everything. I was like, what's going on? And then I just realized, wow, it just doesn't affect me how I thought it did
Sure.
for whatever reason, and it's just not going to be a daily thing anymore.
And I think that's an important point. Like you didn't want to tell me that. Like you're like, I don't really want to tell you this, but you did. And I think you hit it on the head. Like sometimes our ego gets in our own way of actually allowing ourselves to grow.
Yeah.
Because we somehow, whatever our habit is, we've identified this as part of who we are, and we think we always have to have it. And we don't do what you did, like reflect back. Okay, is this important? Is this not? Is this working? Is it not? Do I need to scale this? Do I not? Ego is very good for us in some ways, and it can be our worst enemy if it's unchecked in many others.
I agree.
But it's funny you didn't want to tell me that because I know what you're about. It's like why
Yeah.
we're here. So I don't. I'm not gonna say I don't care because I do care for you, and I
Right.
do think clarity is always a better answer in the majority of circumstances. But it was just funny. You felt like pressure to talk about it or not talk about it. Or,
Yeah, it was definitely my ego. I was like, dang it, I don't want Jared to think like, oh, I was right or anything like that. And I knew you wouldn't, but it was just funny hearing my mind produce those thoughts.
he might have been like, dang it, Jared's rubbing off on me. I'm getting old. Cool. Let's wrap this up and let's get this community some practice. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Some purposeful practice. I think this one would be really beneficial. And remember, about one more month left to get yourself a free On Purpose t-shirt for submitting your purposeful practice. We'll be choosing one lucky winner each week. So get that in and you may find a t-shirt in your mailbox here soon. But the purposeful practice for this week is part 1. Reflect on when's the last time you completely disconnected from a daily habit, whether positive or negative. Reflect on that. What happened and what did you learn? And then most importantly, email us your reflection. Email it to onpurpose.official@gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited for you, my friend. And it's interesting to see people move into different stages of growth. So, the cool thing is, and I've stressed this before and I'll say it again, when you surround yourself with other people that are growing, you grow.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll learn something from watching your journey, guaranteed. So I appreciate you being here and sharing those stories, my friend.
Yeah, appreciate you too, man. Excited for your next steps too, Mr. Author.
I know the book will
soon.
be out next week. We're super pumped to have that. And
I'm ready to
maybe
read
we'll
it.
even give away some copies on here.
Yeah, dude, I need my copy. I've been waiting, man. I'm
Friday,
ready to
they're
read
coming
that
in
thing.
Friday. I got the first proofs coming Friday, and then we'll
Sweet.
launch it next week. So
Sweet.
thank you all for being here. Remember, let's step out of the closet. Let's commit fully to living our best lives. And remember, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We'll see everybody next week.